Okay, so I'm going to show you how I create the look for this pine bough on this one right up here. So what I've done so far is I've just used this aquarelle in this teal color. I'll move this other pencil down. And I've just gone in and scribbled a couple areas. Not all of them, not all these little pine needles. And then I'll go back over it with a darker colored green. This is Kimberly's. This is called sea green, but it's more of a darker green. Got a little bit of pine color in it, so I'm going to go over the same area, filling in some of these other pine needles with this other color, with this darker green. Sorry, trying to hold my paper still. Okay, I'm just kind of scribbling, not being very specific as to where I'm going. Just filling in some areas. And then I'm going to take a lighter green watercolor pen. I'm going to use the brush tip. This is Tombow 200, which is a pretty light green. And I'm just going to go over and grab some of this color and pull it towards the middle of my branch. Right here on this one where there is no color, what I can do is grab a little bit of color from some of these other pine needles and just pull it through that one right there. As you can see, it creates a couple different colors, some variegation, and that's because the brush itself has got pigment in it and color, but then I'm also grabbing pigment from the pencil areas and just pulling it through. So I'm going to go through and fill in this whole thing, pulling these colors through, trying to make sure I get some color in the very tips of these pine needles. I don't want to leave them all white. Not being super detail oriented, just trying to get this colored in. You could be detail oriented, but I never am. I don't have the patience to spend the time to get real detail oriented with my coloring. Okay, so that's filled in, and then the other thing I'm going to do is take a brown watercolor pencil. This is also by Kimberly. This is just brown, and I'm going to fill this in. Just draw sort of a streak through the middle of my little pine branch, like that. And then I can take a lighter tan color using the brush tip. I'm just going to pull this through, and this is just going to create kind of a shadow effect, like there's a branch, a brown branch tucked in there in those pine needles. Okay. And I'm going to go back over it with my green again. And just filling in some of these areas that are still white that I can see. And hitting some of the tips, hitting some of the tips of these pine needles to make sure that they're all filled in. And you can use the other end of this marker, which is just more of a writing tip, but it doesn't put down as much of the watercolor, and you can do a little bit more detail work with the pen end rather than the brush tip. But I prefer the brush just because it's quicker and it puts down more color and gets a larger area blended all at once. So that's how we create the look of these pine boughs. And I'll start on the rest of the page.